تفضل يا أخي.
Brother, I would say in the past 6 to 7 months, I am constantly, when I'm on my 4th rakat, I'm in total doubt if this is my last or if I need to go one more. And what I've done is I decided to use 4 little objects, either 4 coins or 4 peanuts or something. And every time I do a rakat, I just move it so I know exactly where I'm at.
طيب.
I mean, it's kind of like 2 questions, one double quad, and then I do that.
Crystal clear. Question says, Bismillah. For many years, I've been very doubtful in my last rak'ah, my last unit of the prayer, the 4th. Is it the 3rd rak'ah or the 4th rak'ah? Or 4th and 5th, etc. So, I have made a little system for myself, a precautionary system for myself, having 4 stones or pebbles. And every time I make a rak'ah, I move one, put it in my pocket, etc. to keep check. Is that permissible, etc.? We say, first and foremost is, we have 2 problems or 2 issues. First is the chronic issue. And second is the usage of stones or pebbles or a string or your finger or whatever else, whatever type of mechanism that you use. As far as the chronic issue, then we advise you, firstly we advise you and we remind you of the importance of khushu' in salah. And the importance of not forgetting about prayers and not forgetting in prayers. And being mentally focused and humble before Allah Azza wa Jal. And putting aside any reason or cause behind chronic forgetfulness. That's the first thing we advise you with. Number 2, we also advise you with seeking Allah's refuge and Allah's protection. Before the prayer, in the prayer, and after the prayer. Number 3, we advise you to constantly be in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In your house, in your car, the first thing you do, make your dua when you go in your house. You get in your car, you start the ignition, you make the dua for riding your beast, mounting your riding beast, or traveling. All of the time, make your adhkar. Listen to Surah Al-Baqarah, listen to Surah Ali Imran all of the time, and recite them. After that, in the prayer, we advise you to do away with doubt. Don't allow it to come to you. Don't entertain it. Don't even give it any type of platform for it to come into your mind, into your heart. As soon as it comes, just ignore it to the best of your ability. But obviously, that's not always that easy. That isn't always that easy. So the Prophet ﷺ informed us to seek Allah's refuge and to spit lightly on our left shoulder. Not a spit, but like this. Seek Allah's refuge and to lightly spit like that. In the authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Also, when it comes to moving in a salat, holding a finger or a string or a rock or a pebble. Let's say, for example, you're in the process of working on everything as a whole. Getting yourself better. Getting out of the forgetfulness, reciting the Quran, so on and so forth. But at the same time, I need a short-term remedy. And you held your finger like this, or you had a stone and you put it in a pocket. And you didn't keep playing with it over and over again. But instead, you did it in 1 rak'ah and you were still for the rest of the rak'ah. And the second rak'ah, you had to drop another coin from the top pocket. Let's say, for example, here. I had something in my pocket, nothing in. Change, right? And then to make sure that I have the final rak'ah, I do this and I drop it in my pocket down here. As long as the movement isn't consistent, in which I continually do it in the salah, over and over again. And it's broken up, and it isn't a movement that's crazy, but I'm like, you see me, you still think I'm praying? If I was like this, Abdul Raqib, would you still think I'm making salat? What would you think, Khalid? Still, I'm praying. It's clearly, I'm not doing, hey. That's different. That's a movement in which someone who sees me from a distance clearly sees that I'm not what? Even though I'm still praying to myself. But if you saw me, you wouldn't think, right now, Abu Saeed, he's talking on the phone. Do you think he's making salat? No. But if he was turned around, facing the Qibla, standing with a chair in front of him, and he had his phone like this really quick, from a distance, you would still think that he's where? In the salah. So if you have to move and you have to do something for a short-term remedy whilst working on the long-term remedy, Inshallah, there's nothing wrong with that. But it can only be short term. It can't be something that you keep doing like that. It can't be something that's constant. It has to be a thing in which you have to get rid of, and you have the ability to pray and focus without a coin or a pebble or moving your fingers. Clear on that? Inshallah ta'ala. Let's say, for example, for argument's sake, someone had a clicker or a clinker, as they say, in which you actually had to click each time. And at the end of the salah, you had to briefly look down and look at the clinker. If that's what you had to do, if the waswasa was that bad, or your focus was that bad, then perhaps that would be permissible based off of necessity. But it can't be something that is long term, just like a headache. Right now, I don't have the time to go to the herbalist and do this and sleep like that. I need to get rid of this pain. So I'll pop some pills right now because the pain is excruciating. Labas. But you taking pills every day, 2-3 times a day, being high, that can't be your what? Your long-term goal. Your long-term goal has to be able to get rid of those headaches, those migraines. Clear on this? Inshallah.
H.A. from New York. Is a man allowed to speak to a woman through text message in order to give a dawah?
Is a man allowed to speak to a woman through text messages in order to give da'wah? No and yes. No and yes. The no part is, there are other ways of giving da'wah to men and women without texting them. And there are plenty of people to give da'wah. And you can't give da'wah unless you're qualified. And even if you are qualified, if there's a need for you to give da'wah. Obviously, the huge, gigantic blue whale problem that we have in the room, not an elephant, the blue whale of social media, of YouTubers, or as he said, Facebook muftis, or text message muftis, or whatever. That's a huge problem. In which everybody's giving a talk and giving a dawah, answering questions. I'm in the mix. It's a problem. It's a problem. It's a mushkila. People who aren't qualified, who have no knowledge, or if they are qualified, but they do have knowledge, but they may not necessarily need to be speaking about this, or they may not necessarily need to be, whatever the scenario is, whatever the what? Whatever the scenario is. People who do have knowledge, but don't want to say nothing. I don't want to talk. My brother said, I don't want to answer the question. I want to be humble. I don't want to, I fear for myself. So why do you go overseas and study for 10 years? Everybody understand this? I don't want to answer questions. That's the job of the scholars. Okay? But you warn from people. Is that not the job of the? So the games, is a big problem. Social media and the dawah scene today in the West is, and in the East as well. We're talking about Arab countries. It's a huge problem. We ask Allah for help. So that's the no part. There's no need for you to be texting an individual sister about dawah. And the yes part is, giving a text message to a sister is no different than talking to a sister in a class or khutbah or whatever the case may be. It's nothing more than a means. It's a means of your speech being conveyed to her. Writing a sister a letter, giving her a text message, giving a khutbah, she's up the steps, she's on the sister's side. There's no difference. Except for the content. What are you texting her? She's asked you a ruling, a fiqh ruling says it's permissible, inshallah. This is what Sheikh bin Baz said. Kada wa kada. Or you asking her how was her day and this and that and what are you wearing? Huh? A selfie, a crazy selfie. Huh? Mufti 2000, huh? You send her a picture with your sword collection or something like this. Something crazy. That's one thing. That's what? That's one thing. Unnecessary small talk. Flirting. Start talking about things and asking her personal questions and this and that. That's a different story. That's what? That's a different story. So it depends, Yani. It depends. Sometimes it's permissible, sometimes it isn't. A sister that's a part of your community, that's one thing. You're any man. You see what I'm saying? She's your personal student. That's one thing. Some sister that you don't need to necessarily be in contact with. It's a different story. And most importantly, what is the content? You go on WhatsApp, you click on a person's name with the icon and the slogan, and then you click on media, links and docs. You open it up. What are those media? What did you send? A picture of yourself or of something else? It's a different story. So it depends. What's important is just to beware of shaitan. Beware of the devil. And he can play a trick on you from two angles, a double-edged sword. He can play a trick on you by getting you to contact a sister and then you end up falling into something wrong. Or he can play a game on you and getting you not to text the sister and you being cowardly. and refraining from doing that which is obligatory and necessary of teaching and giving da'wah and making yourself available. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Shaitan is an enemy to you. Take him as a what? As an enemy, and be balanced. And wallahi, we experience both. People on YouTube, Facebook, whatever, talking, giving da'wah, answering questions that should not be doing it. And then we find the other extreme as well. Brothers and sisters who are qualified, and there's a need for them. But they say, I can't talk. Imam Fulan said this, Sufyan al-Thawri said that, Imam Ahmed said, I ran away from fatwa for 50 years until they cornered me in Baghdad and forced me. This is mushkila. Balance is the best thing. What? In the what? In the middle. Allah knows best. Let's read our last question tonight.
Initials SS from New York, New York. What is the ruling on using zodiac signs in Islam?
Question says, what is the ruling on using zodiac signs in Islam? Just like the previous answer. Sometimes you use them, sometimes you don't use them. Okay? A zodiac sign. Zodiac signs are much more than just signs. There are issues pertaining to directions, astronomy, not astrology, but actual astronomy. They're based off of what? Zodiac signs. Days of the weeks, different things like this. That's one thing. As far as you mean you want to marry a sister, and he says, what month are you? Are you a Cancer or a Capricorn? A Leo or what? A Virgo, huh? What's your sign? Akhi Abdul Qawi. He said, what's your sign? That's a different story. That's what? Different story. Depending upon that, using that, seeking guidance in that, then that's clearly impermissible because it's going to lead to all types of problems. Huh? And Allah knows best. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد.